Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Esteban's Blood Box, where we're here to talk about things metal, all things around metal and such, and today it is another Dungeon Synth video. I'm on a Dungeon Synth kick lately. As you all know, I love the genre, and there's just lots of really cool stuff coming out with it right now. So today is a little bit of a split video. I'm going to share with you what we're listening to in the background. Also a project, just want to share quickly with you, and then we're going to talk about something else that's really cool that I'm sure you can tell what it is by the the title of the video. But to start with, we are listening to Ravenlore, a very fantastic project that I recently stumbled across. I'm actually friends with the individual who makes this on Facebook, and had seen it for a second whenever it first was announced, and just somehow missed it, I'm not sure. And then recently they posted that the cassettes, there's only a few left. And I was like, oh yeah, holy shit, I gotta check that out. And I did, and fell in love with it immediately. It is an amazing, amazing project. Lots of cool things about this. One, the album artwork. When I got it, I was like, man, that looks familiar. Like, the style of art looks familiar. And it turns out it was created by Rob Kabjian, who is the main person behind the Dungeon Synth project Monastery, as well as the lead singer, lyricist, and guitar player for the band 1476. So he's also an incredible artist. Lots of his artwork is out there in various places. Folkvanger Records has a shirt designed by him, but he is really an incredible artist, and he did this album artwork. Usually does a lot of kind of knot work and things like that. So just obviously an incredible artist. This is a really cool release too. It comes with a lot of stuff. So you get a nice velvet bag that everything comes in. Considering it's called Ravenlore, you get a raven feather with it, which is very cool. Nice little touch. You also get... Where is all my stuff here? I have some things scattered here. I got lots of shit on my desk. Somber Arcane, I think is a label, a Dungeon Synth label, if I'm not mistaken. I need to check that out, because I know I've seen that around. Also, this came with it, this sticker, dungeoncodex.com, which says the world's first Dungeon Synth database. Did not know about that, so that is something we all should check out, see if there's like a database. I don't know if it's maybe like a Discogs or something similar for Dungeon Synth, but something worth checking out. Very cool. And then obviously the very, very cool patch, very nice patch that comes with it. So I think when I was looking at the cassette itself, I thought Ravenlore was the name of the project, but I think it's actually Shrouded Gate is the project, and then Ravenlore is the album. Because I see Shrouded Gate is what it says right there, which I thought was the label, but I got all my stuff mixed up. But I think that's actually the name of the project, since the patch is Shrouded Gate. So I think it's Shrouded Gate, and then Ravenlore is the album. But anyways, that's what we're listening to in the background. Really amazing, amazing Dungeon Synth. So check it out on their Bandcamp. I will, of course, include that in the comments below, or in the description below. I think the cassette is sold out, but you can still get it digitally through their Bandcamp, so be sure to do that. So, the main thing we're here to talk about today is Dungeon Synth Trading Cards. One of the coolest things I've seen so far come out with Dungeon Synth. A big part of Dungeon Synth that I think is appealing to a lot of people, and of course it's not a singular thing, it's not the only thing about it, but there is a lot of nostalgia that comes into play with Dungeon Synth. You get some of your music that sounds like old video game music, lots of references to Tolkien and Dungeons and Dragons, a lot of vintage style atmospheres, synths, and also just visuals that come along with it. It's a very big genre. It spans a lot of different aesthetics, so that's not all it is, but that is a part within a pocket of Dungeon Synth. And these Dungeon Synth trading cards really scratch that itch of wanting some of these old, sounds terrible, old-timey things that when I was a kid that were around that are starting to kind of come back. And one of those is trading cards. I'm personally a big fan of like collectible card games, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, all that type of stuff, but also old kind of dead collectible card games, and also trading cards. And there seems to be a resurging market for that. So the timing of these are really well, even though I don't think these were created to to jump onto that market. Bard Algol, who's the person behind this, who's also the person behind Dark Age Productions, which is a big Dungeon Synth label of the Dungeon Synth labels. Sort of had a little conversation online with him about it, and yeah, he just thought this would be a fun thing, so that's why he put it all together and got it out, and did a fantastic job. So, anyways, it appeals to some of that nostalgia, that we all kind of have with a lot of these things. And also why certain choices were made for the way these look. So to start with, the first, so many orders, I don't know if it was first 200 or 500 orders of these got a poster, one per household. So I was lucky to get one. This is the main logo of the Dungeon Synth Trading Cards Series 1. Love everything about it. Definitely has like your 80s vintage vibe of trading cards or Dungeons & Dragons or something like that. So very, very cool poster that came with this. That was fantastic. It's going to go up here in the studio somewhere. Might even get framed because I really love it. You also get a Dark Age Productions, I think it's a sticker. This is the logo for Dark Age Productions. It might be a decal. I think it's a sticker though. So that was nice. You get the Dungeon Synth Trading Card Series 1 sticker, so a sticker of it. Also get a card, similar style to the trading cards themselves, but this card just sort of has the description of what this is, which I will go ahead and read. So it says, Dungeon Synth. This series of collectible trading cards features a selection of the best promotional photos and art from the Dungeon Synth music scene, with logos, biographies, quotes, and more on the card backs. Each pack is assembled by hand and contains 10 full-colored, numbered cards with glossy UV-coated fronts and uncoated backs, sealed in an old-school wax pack-style paper and stamped with a traditional steel automatic numbering machine. You can go to the website, which is dungeonsynthcards.com, and it's presented by Dark Age Productions. So, yeah, that gives you a little description of it. Lot of love went into making these. You can tell it's all hand done. The packs are all hand wrapped. I think he even maybe did some of the cutting of the cards and things like that by hand stamped. Follow him on Facebook, and I saw that a lot of the equipment used for this he was able to find and get for his use on this. Maybe also doing some other projects for other people as well. But yeah, what you can get, so each pack contains 10 cards. That's the full collection of cards from Series 1. So you get, no matter which pack you get the full 10 cards. But there are 3 different colors of packs you can get. So you can get the purple, which is this one. You can get light blue, sort of a sky blue. You can get turquoise, which probably doesn't look that different on this camera, but in real life you can tell they're a different color. Or you can get orange. Fantastic color choices, again, very much that vintage style, somewhat 80s. Being the collector I am, I got one of each color and then one pack to open, so these will all remain sealed. But really, really cool. Here is what they look like on the back side. This is the one I opened. Here we go. You see that there? So you've got Dark Age Productions on the top with the number stamped there, and then you've got the list of artists that are inside of each one. So yeah, it's the wax pack as you open it. It's on one side, the inside is that waxy feel, and the outside sort of that matte. I think it's waxed as well, possibly. But also just a neat, cool, really cool aesthetic to this. So yeah, well done, Dark Age Productions. Really fantastic job on this. So yeah, let's get into a pack. Let's get into these and see what's in them all. Velastras, I believe, is the name of this band, and here is the trading card that comes with them. Very cool, sort of witchy Dungeon Synth look to it. So this is one of the cards and one of the individuals that's actually been pretty important within Dungeon Synth. The back of the card, it has a lot of information, including where they're from. Also has their band camp, all sorts of things like that, what number of card it is, which is up at top, logo, all things like that. So yeah, I'll hold it up here and we'll read and see what it says. So, Velastras has been creating minimalist and meditative dungeon synth inspired by the lore and universe of Warcraft, with over 20 albums under their belt, such as Adventures of the Red, Whelpling, Birth of Nextramus, Sunstrider, and the Plagueland Chronicles compilation. Velastras is also known for their promotional work for the Dungeon Siege Music Festival with their quirky, hilarious commercials that hyped up each event. So again, one of the really cool things about this card project is it ties in a lot of things that a lot of us who are in Dungeon Synth have probably seen online. The Dungeon Siege is a pretty big deal within Dungeon Synth because it's where a lot of bands would perform live. It's a thing that's been happening in the United States. There's Dungeon Siege West and Dungeon Siege East, which are on East Coast of the United States. I do believe they are working on doing some in the Midwest as well, because a lot of people have trouble getting to coast and coast. So this person is one of the people who are involved with doing some of the promotional videos for Dungeon Siege, kind of the commercials, if you will, for it. And they were usually pretty funny, kind of poking some fun at Dungeon Synth itself, which is a fun thing within the Dungeon Synth community, and not a lot of people take themselves too seriously. But obviously someone who is pretty involved in that. Did not know that myself, wasn't familiar with this project, certainly didn't know they had 20 albums under their belt, so certainly seems like someone that's been around for quite some time. So very cool information to have on that. Very much looking forward to checking out that project. So moving right along, next we have, and that project was from the United States. This next project is from Australia, Tarkin Turfer. So this is the album artwork for Tarkin Turfer, I assume for one of their albums. As you can see, you get the logo on the back there. And let's just see what they have on the back. So, Tarkin Turfer is a dark ambient dungeon synth project started in 1999 by John Dexter. Tarkin Turfer's style is quite frequently comprised of ritualistic rhythms and heavy bass grooves, which serve to drive forward the brooding, blackened, string-soaked gloom. Tarkin Turfer's latest album, entitled Old Finbar Furrowbrow, is entitled that name, and features cover art painted by Bard Algol. Okay, very cool. So Bard Algol is the person behind Dark Age Productions, who is also the person behind putting out these Dungeon Synth Trading Cards. All of this is put out by hand. The wax paper, all of this folded by him himself. Just one person doing it. I think he is also part of Metal Hell Records. I don't know if he's what his involvement is or if he's the sole person behind that, but I believe he is involved with that. And I had no idea he was such an incredible artist. Holy shit, that is really incredible artwork. So, damn, Bard Algol is fantastic. So, again, fun thing with this. A lot of information, new things I'm personally learning about Dungeon Synth and all these connections with these bands and stuff. So, very, very cool. Next up, we have Arcarius. Very awesome traditional Dungeon Synth promotional work there. Looks like they actually have a real candelabra, not just like a Hobby Lobby one there. So very nice. Got the logo on the back, as you can see. So this one is out of Reunion Island. I'm not 100% sure where that is, but cool to see that there's Dungeon Synth coming from out of every corner of the world. So, medieval Dungeon Synth project Arcarius derives inspiration from the landscapes of Reunion Island and nostalgic feelings about the medieval ages in south of France, Occitania. Okay, so there we go. Got some geography there. The sound is often dark and foreboding, full of alchemical mystery. The lore of your ancestors returns to life as you explore. Challenge yourself to wander along these dark passages. So very cool. Sounds like very traditional Dungeon Synth. Certainly something, another project I'm looking forward to checking out. So yeah, there you go. Moving right along. Yes, a ring. A ring is a very, very big one. Very famous Dungeon Synth project. One I have heard of before out of France. Love it. Love the album cover there. I don't know if it's album cover, but just promotional photo of it. If you're familiar with Dungeon Synth, you have seen that logo around, I am sure. So let's see what they have to say. An early pioneer of the revival of Dungeon Synth with his first album, Tone 1, in 2012. So that is true. I know Orang was kind of one of the, as it says, pioneers of re-establishing Dungeon Synth and sort of getting it about as a genre, which happened in the early 2010s. Orang has created a musical world of lore of his own, where all of his albums take place in the land of the 5 seasons. his music being very intimate and nostalgic is a journey to another world, another time where imagination never fails. So very nice, very cool history of Orang there. Same thing, a lot of these projects seem to have this. They're kind of world building within their project. Mortis, of course, sort of being the pioneer of that. But very nice to get some backstory on Orang. Love this next one, very cult cover there. So this is, let's see, what's the name here? Can't quite read it. Sidereal Fortress. There's the album, or the logo there, out of Italy. Really love that sort of spooky black and white promotional photo there. So, Sidereal Fortress. Hailing from the core of Italy, Sidereal Fortress is an ageless bard, a troubadour coming from the mists of time, a storyteller of ancient tales rooted in the Tuscan folklore. Wandering through mountains, hills, and forests, he has come to tell you about his deepest memories and his mysterious land. Let him sing before he leaves. So, very nice. Certainly would be interested in checking this out. Sounds like it's probably some very beautiful dark music. So this next project, which is Whispering Mirrors. So this is fun. I'm glad this one made it on there, and as you can really see, that's a kick-ass promotional photo. I love it. And I remember seeing this one on the Dungeon Synth groups on Facebook. So I know Dungeon Synth Zine, which is based out of Poland, and that's a guy who's been doing a zine, doing interviews with a lot of Dungeon Synth people, and that's been growing a lot. It's kind of one of the people who's doing a lot of archival work for Dungeon Synth moving forward. And one of the things he said is he had said he kind of wished more people would do more professional photos for Dungeon Synth, especially for the zine, because, and by professional, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be super professional, but I think he just wanted something more than like an iPhone photo, which is what a lot of people were doing. Again, this whole genre stems from DIY type stuff, pretty low budget, people jumping in, with singular projects that they're doing by themselves. So it is starting to elevate a little bit more in some of the production quality of things. And certainly this is one of the ones where this photo shoot was really incredible. And you can see more and find it on the, I think it was both in Dungeon Synth Cult and Dungeon Synth, which are two projects, or two groups on Facebook that are ones you want to get into if you're into Dungeon Synth. But yeah, really, really cool photo there. Really love it. Got some throwbacks to the cult black metal stuff with the whatever you call them, cuffs, whatever the hell those things are called. I can't think of it. But yeah, really cool. United States band. Again, it does tell you on all of them where they are based out of. So, Whispering Mirrors' sole purpose has always been to create old-school dungeon synth inspired by the masters of yesteryear. Both Grammaticon, which is 2018, and The Stuff of Old Dreams, which is 2020, so that's a recent album, were both released on Ancient Metal Records, another big-time Dungeon Synth label, and both feature the traditional Dungeon Synth style. Whispering Mirrors has also performed live at Dungeon Siege West Festival in Seattle, Washington, among other acclaimed musicians in the Dungeon Synth scene. So another reference to Dungeon Siege, again, pretty big deal within the Dungeon Synth community, because that's where a lot of these projects perform live, or were performing live, and then this last year, and then the one that just happened, they're doing all of their stuff online, which is really opened up a new way of doing these performances. So, cool reference with that. Talking about Dungeon Siege, that is really becoming a thing, because a lot of people are attending it either in person when you could, or currently online. And there's been some pretty big people, some crossover musicians that have been participating in that. Cannot think of the person's name, but there is someone who is currently in Tangerine Dream, in the band Tangerine Dream. They're a current member, who, if I'm not mistaken, reached out to Dungeon Siege, the Dungeon Siege promoters and people, and said he had a project that he would like to perform on it. And I remember seeing a picture. I mean, this guy went all out. Of course, he's in Tangerine Dream, which is a massive, synth band. One of the classics, certainly one of the pioneers of what would lead into Dungeon Synth much later on. A lot of people credit Tangerine Dream, with being an influence. And of course, Mayhem's Euronymous was a major Tangerine Dream fan. But anyways, so this is one of the newer members, not one of the original members, but reached out, said he had a project, and performed. And it was awesome. It had the candelabras and all of that. It was in a fairly big space and had just about every synthesizer you could imagine that they performed with. So, yeah, and that's not the only one. There were some others that I can't think of the names of right now, but there were some other pretty big name people from other bands coming in, getting into this dungeon synth world and genre. So it is starting to pick up, which I think a lot of people, kind of predicted it would. I've said for a while, and I'm not the only one, that sort of relates this to what black metal was doing in the 90s, where it started off as this very underground do-it-yourself scene, and then as it gained popularity, started getting bigger and bigger, and now black metal is a massive genre, which has bands all over the world playing in it. And the 2010s and 2020s, I think that's what dungeon synth has been and is becoming. So it's cool. It's cool to see all this stuff come together. So another one here, Arcana Liturgia, I think is how you say it. Let me make sure here. Yep. So the nice thing is it has all the band names on the paper, so I can use that as a reference. Arcana Liturgia, very pagan-esque looking, promotional photo there. Absolutely love it. From Italy, there's the logo. So very nice. So Arcana Liturgia has been creating grand and evocative dungeon synth based on historical and fantasy themes since 1997, with 7 albums to his credit. From the first demo, I cannot do this math, MCCXXXI, 1997, I assume that's the what that equates to, through the cult album Ars Moriendi, and up to the latest Follow the Old Path, which came out in 2020. Arcana Liturgia has collaborated with multiple record labels and headlined the Northeast Dungeon Siege MMXX streaming festival. So I believe that's 2020, if I'm not mistaken. So they were part of both the live Dungeon Siege shows and then the recent online one. So another big performer in all of that. Very cool. Also fun, again, exposing me to a lot of new bands I didn't know much about, and awesome to see so many albums are out, like the one project that had 20 albums under their belt. Looking forward to checking all those out. So, very cool. Alright, next we have, let's see, which one is, Fogweaver. Fogweaver, yes, Fogweaver is a big one. That's the logo there. Another United States project. Very beautiful promotional photo. Looks a little blue, I think, on my screen, but it's very purple. It just looks blue on here. But beautiful color photography there. Fogweaver's a big one. I've seen them getting passed around a lot on the Dungeon Synth pages, really becoming quite popular. So, Dungeon Synth, based in the world of Earthsea, a lone wanderer among the archipelago, discovering the true names of all things. Fogweaver is forever indebted to and dedicated to the true Archmage, Ursula K. Le Guin. So, yeah, I need to look up who that is. I'm not 100% sure, but Fogweaver's a big one. Really cool to have them included on this. Yes, so I always say this one wrong, but I've seen this name a lot. Ethereite Throne? Shit. Ethereite Throne, I think is how you say it. Another big one, classic Dungeon Synth, been around for some time and is one of the bigger names in Dungeon Synth. Also, definitely the promotional photo is classic cult Dungeon Synth, which is that crossover between, the black metal aesthetic and Dungeon Synth. So, as I've said in previous videos, as probably a lot of you know, but in case you don't, you're new to Dungeon Synth. Dungeon Synth stems from black metal, essentially, in the second wave of black metal, which is your black metal from the 90s, so think Mayhem, Emperor, Mortal, those kinds of bands. A lot of projects would have, either within a song, some sort of dark ambient tracks, or a whole track itself that would be somewhat dark ambient. And through that, Dungeon Synth sort of evolved by taking those elements and developing it into its own sound. And as we'll see on the last project too, there are some people from that era who really jump-started the genre by going full in on it. But yeah, that's why you get some crossover with black metal aesthetic with it. So this is a Canadian project. I think they're wearing a Thangorodrim. I always say that one wrong too, but I think they're wearing that shirt too. Which, if you watched my last video on your Arcarius Productions, I talked about them a little bit as well. But yeah, Canada. So Worm, most well known as the man behind Ethereate Throne, is also the founder and composer-collaborator of all material on Serpent Sword Records. Okay, so another artist who has a record label. This music of Worm varies from project to project, but most of it is dark vampiric dungeon synth, another one I was talking about in the Uralt Herrschaft videos. So, where was I? But most of it is dark vampiric dungeon music, oftentimes incorporating black metal vocals. Worm is extremely prolific with about 15 or more active projects and around 80 releases at the time of publishing. So, another one of of course, Ethereate Throne is a big project, but this individual Worm is huge in the Dungeon Synth community. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the bands I like are probably this individual doing it. And as I said, with the aesthetic, obviously using black metal vocals behind sort of Dungeon Synth music landscapes. So very cool crossover there. And last but not least, you could not have Dungeon Synth Trading Cards Series 1 without the man, the legend, the one who started it all, Mortis. So, got the logo on the back there, as you can see, from Norway. So, as I was talking about with the black metal being an influence on Dungeon Synth, Mortis, the individual who is Mortis, was actually in the band Emperor, and I believe performed, I think it was vocals or something, on the Nightside Eclipse, which is the very famous Emperor album. Dungeons and the black metal people, correct me if I got any of that wrong. But I do know Mortis was a part of Emperor. Then left, created the dark atmospheric project Vond, which then, I don't know if it formed, but it was sort of along the same veins of where Mortis came along. So when I saw this card, I was like, well, that doesn't look like a traditional Mortis photo, because usually Mortis has the whole garb, or it's sort of the Batwing goblin look from the earlier stuff, and then moves into just sort of that goblin character of Mortis. And I hadn't seen this one before. But, as I will read on the back here, this is what's really cool about this Dungeon Synth trading card set, is there is a lot of history within here, and there's a lot of categorizing, cataloging, and archiving a lot of the history behind Dungeon Synth. So, out of Norway, obviously, Norwegian black metal, that is where this kind of stems from. Taken during the old Fotdil Til Ahersk sessions in the fall of 1993, it was in part by chance, or more specifically, my first attempt at photo development. That resulted in the oppressive and dense atmosphere of this image. Not by design, the photo came out extremely grainy and vague. It was quickly realized that the end result was something special no less, and the rest is history. So this is kind of one of the first photos of Mortis that was taken by the man himself or someone he was working with. So that is pretty cool to have that little bit of history in your hand in these Dungeon Synth trading cards, because if you're a Dungeon Synth fan, you are very familiar with Mortis and the aesthetic of all of that. If you're not, check out Mortis. One to definitely check out, to get you into the genre. But you'll see this is a little bit different vibe than what it ends up being. But really cool to kind of have one of the first images of the character and the musician himself on that. So very, very cool stuff. This trading card set is just incredible. Really, Bard did an amazing, amazing job with it. The quality is really high quality. Again, the wax paper comes in. It's very nostalgic if you're into trading card stuff. Really love it. Again, there's three... Oh, sorry. That was the microphone. 3 color versions you can get. So orange, sort of a turquoise green, light blue, and purple. It doesn't matter which color you get, it's the same 10 cards, and you do get all the cards in the pack. But if you're a collector like me, I got all 4 plus 1 to open. And definitely something worth getting into. I think I just actually saw before recording this video that there was originally a run of 500 packs of cards. I think it actually ended up being 515 with some extras, and he did number those too, so there's about 515 packs of cards. At the time of recording this video, there's about 200 left. The pre-orders sold quite a bit, so if you do want to get some of these cards, get on it quickly because they will sell out. And I imagine, that these probably won't be reprinted again on the Series 1. They'll probably move on to Series 2, Series 3, and so on and so forth to move forward. So if this is something you're into, get on it right away. I'll put a link at the bottom. Dark Age Productions is who puts them out, and I think Metal Hell Records is part of that too. So, it's a really cool, awesome thing. I love that this happened, that Bard put all this together, and that, just expands the environment and cool stuff that is within Dungeon Synth. So, thank you, as always, for watching. Again, check out this album. I'm not sure if there's any physical copies left, but I will put a link to the Bandcamp so you can check it out digitally. Be sure to purchase it from the artist if you like it. And thank you, as always, for checking it out. Another Dungeon Synth episode down. Be safe out there, my friends, and we will see you next time.